we doing with it?
All right, so now we are live on YouTube, and I should have mentioned this before we started. I totally forgot. If you're not comfortable being live streamed, you can turn off your video, not a problem at all. And oops, I think I changed the view to speaker view. There we go. Now we can all see each other, and I'm gonna go ahead and get us started. First up, I know we talked a little bit about it last week, but there's maybe some updates. And in case anybody missed it last week, next month is Asian American Pacific Islander Month. And, it's not a super common theme for churches to celebrate. And why not? I mean, we all should be celebrating the beautiful diversity that we have in the Desert Southwest Conference. So I invited Julie O'Neill, a member of the DSC Race Coalition, to talk to us today a little bit about what the DSC Race Coalition put together for this month. Go ahead, Julie.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Christina. So as she said, we in our conference have, how many of you have heard of Black History Month? Right? How many of you knew or have heard of Asian Heritage Month? A few, okay, good. Hispanic Heritage Month. All right. And Native or Indigenous Heritage Month. All right, well then I'm talking to the wrong crowd. No, just kidding. That's absolutely wonderful. I think that, the more awareness that we have is great. And our conference has recognized that we as a conference can always be doing better, right? Going on to perfection. And so our DSC Race Coalition has decided to highlight these heritage months and offer resources to help churches, to help congregations, groups and churches look at issues around that affect these racial ethnic groups more closely in that month. So last February, we had a book study called I'm Black, I'm Christian, I'm Methodist, which is written by several United Methodist clergy people. And I would encourage you to look that up. It's an easy read. It's a great, it's really engaging to do that if you wanted a book study for your congregation, or maybe your United Methodist Women, or some other small group in your church. So in May is Asian American Pacific Islander Month, or the shortened way is AAPI. So in May, there will be a couple of different things that a subgroup of the DSC Race Coalition is planning. The first one is a supplement or an expanded offerings of the 21-day Racial Ethnic Habit Building Challenge. Now, last fall, our annual conference put out resources for this. So any congregation could do the 21-day challenge. There's something you do each day, whether it's read an article or watch a video or listen to something. So in May, there's going to be an expanded list of resources that focus around the Asian American and Pacific Islander experience. So it's not a brand new full list of 21 days worth of things. Instead, it's just kind of a big list of things. But there will be 3 to 5 resources that are curated that to say, hey, these are, if you're going to do any of them, do these 3 to 5. Or if you want to keep exploring, there's going to be a whole list of things. Some of them are not churchy, so to speak, but we felt that it's important to offer them because they really do give insights on what it's like to be Asian in this country, or Asian American theology, or some sort of perspective. And so it may be a little bit different from what you might be used to seeing, but it's hopefully going to be useful for folks to offer again in their congregations, or people can do it on their own and do that. So we're looking forward to offering that with the first part of May. The second thing is we are going to be having a panel discussion. And the panel discussion will have Asian clergy and lay people, Asian and Pacific Islander clergy and lay people, talking about their experience here in our conference. So it's going to be how they've maybe perceived racism in their community, like maybe if they're at Target or something, or the grocery store. There's also going to be a place and a time for folks to really hear about how they've experienced racism or bias or prejudice in their congregations or in the church from church people, right? So it's going to be a conversation, not only hearing from Asian and Pacific Islander clergy and laity, but also then talking with other members of the Race Coalition, because like Asian American Month isn't just in May, right? Like there's a need for conversations across cultures, across racial ethnic groups on how to, it's not just my job to help educate people about Asian Month, right? And so it's that kind of conversation on how to be an ally. How can we as fellow church people, people of faith, really care for one another in some different ways. So that dialogue is going to, that panel discussion is going to take place. I have a correction, Christina. Last time I said it was the 14th of May, and we've changed that date. So it's going to be the 13th of May, which is a Thursday, from 6 to 7:30. And then finally, on the 24th of May, ideally, is when we are going to have a premiere video of an interview with Bishop Bob. And it's going to take place in sort of a informal setting, but it's a way that we can hear from Bishop Bob in a different way that we might not have heard before. Again, sort of an opportunity for him to share his personal experience about race, maybe ways he's encountered that, maybe ways his family has encountered that, in his life, but also in his ministry as our bishop. But then also ways that he sees both our United Methodist Church as well as our Desert Southwest Conference on his hopes. What hopes does he have for our church as we continue to address the issue of racism? What are some challenges that he sees for our churches and our conference in that regard? So I know the recording has happened, and I'm excited to see what that conversation is going to be like. So I hope that you all will tune in for that. And again, these are all hopefully offerings that you can share with your church to just get them thinking, to start conversations. So any questions? And I'm glad that JC is on the call, because I actually am going to touch base with you, JC, in a little bit here. So.
Is the conversation or interview with Bishop Bob, is that going to be, I don't remember how our church is going to be able to see that or find it or share it?
That's a good question. And that's one of our jobs to talk to you about. But I think it's probably going to be some sort of maybe YouTube premiere, and then available on our DSC Race website for people to view or download or things like that. So stay tuned. There will be an article in our May conference newsletter with all the links. You can go to the website. All of that will be there. So
Nice, thanks. And in case you guys don't know, the conference newsletter gets published every first Tuesday of the month. I have a question for you guys sitting here. So let's say you all got the go ahead from your clergy to go ahead and share that interview with Bishop Bob to your churches. What do you suppose would be the best way for us to provide that resource for you? Would it be a YouTube link, or would you need it to be, I need to download it so I could publish it in our channels?
YouTube is good for us.
It's fine for us too, and we can, you know, if we can get the embed code from YouTube, then that would be even easier, because then we could just post it on our website too.
All right, so YouTube sounds like it would be a good way to go. Thank you. Okay, so I've got another question for you guys. I had a couple of church questions this past week. One was, how do churches take attendance when hosting worship online? I had some suggestions for that, but I would love to hear from you guys what you're doing right now for tracking your attendance. Or even if, are you just not tracking attendance right now while it's online?
We're not tracking attendance. Tracking views, but not attendance.
I think
For us, we are tracking attendance online, which is on Facebook. So I always go back. We always encourage people to comment or like or heart. In that way, we can actually count you, and we have a name. And that's also a way for us to invite those that are not a part of Calvary. We get to invite them to like our page, and a lot of them is actually like the page and they've come back. So actually I was joint attendance before this meeting here. So we have been doing attendance for one reason. Ezra every year asks for attendance. So I have to keep up on that.
Okay, that's a great idea, asking the congregation to comment, like, heart it, you know, whatever. That definitely gives you that list of, oh yes, so-and-so was here and so-and-so was here. That's a great idea. Go ahead, Sherry.
Same thing. We actually, and I've got an SPRC meeting later on this afternoon. I thought that's a great question, because I really don't think that we are tracking attendance now that we're back. If you register, you can go to church on Sunday or Saturday night. So there's a limited amount of people that can go. So they're certainly taking attendance then, but I suspect because of the conversations that we have had, it's been more the case of, I don't know who else said it, but that we're looking at views, because we end up with views from folks in Africa and other places where the pastor knows other people. So they look at the views. They can't, I don't know that they're logging them necessarily any place, but I love that question. So I'm going to throw that out to them this afternoon.
Okay, so, oh, go ahead, Janet.
We put up a request on our page for people where they could fill in their information if they are visiting, but even though we prompt them to do that, most people don't respond.
Okay, so say more about that on your page. Is that on the website, a page
On
for
our
people watching?
On our worship page, where we have the link to the YouTube service, that information is there. You know, please register your attendance so that we know you're here, and it gives a place for the person to put their information and a note if they want to. But we haven't had anyone respond to that, even though we know we're getting views.
Yeah. So is that a web form, or is it a document that they download?
I don't know. Our office manager set it up, so I'm not exactly sure.
All right, no problem. Oh, go ahead, Megan.
So pre-pandemic, I had created a Google form for people to be able to get on our church app, because when we switched over to PushPay, a church app is included and may as well try and use it. Google, so if any of the churches use Google Forms is, I think, included in with the business accounts, and it's super easy to do. It's really awesome. You get a spreadsheet of everybody. That worked out great. We switched in the last couple months to Outlook. And so I just now am using Microsoft Forms. Still, it's a little bit of a not user error, but like just learning curve. There we go. But I am working to get that linked on the Facebook page for the live stream, and then on our Vimeo also for the live stream, and on their website on the worship page. And I'm trying to do this for multiple reasons, because we haven't had a new directory go out in a couple of years. And so I'm hoping that our current people will actually give me updates, because I know people have moved and changed things and whatnot. And then I'm also hoping to get some new information from people. I don't have high hopes of getting people to actually use this form, just because sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get anybody to use online forms, even if they use the internet on a regular basis. So we'll see how it goes. I'm still crossing my fingers that we're back to in-person worship soon, but I don't have high hopes on that either. So
Go ahead, Chris.
I don't know if it's really tracking attendance, but we're tracking engagement through our, through views, of course, but then also through emails. So we're very carefully checking who's opening, who's unsubscribing, who's adding. Our website, we changed it over. We got a new website a couple months ago. And one of the things is it's got a pop-up that automatically pops up every time, join our email list. And so that's been really interesting to see. We'll get, 15, 20 a week new emails. And so watching that, and several of them are existing members. But that's been really interesting, and watching those trends.
That's super helpful, Chris. I've been thinking about adding a pop-up on the conference website for the newsletter, but I was under the impression that people just get annoyed by it. So I hadn't done it, but hearing your success story.
They probably do. And I'm one of those people that get super annoyed by it, but it's been worth it for us.
Okay, great.
I was going to say the same thing. Like, I hate when I go to a website, it pops up, but if it's working, then cool. Make other people have to deal with shutting down the pop-up. And I'm going to ask our webmaster to do the same thing. So thank you for the idea.
Thanks. The only other thing the one item that I had shared, similar to what Annie was talking about, basically, if you're live streaming on YouTube, that you could have people comment or subscribe, whatever. There is a benefit to having people subscribe to your channel. Once you get past that 100 subscribers, then you get to another level, which allows stuff on YouTube. I don't remember what it is, but anyway, it's something that you want to try to get. So be sure to tell your peeps, your members, your viewers to like and subscribe to your YouTube. And then, of course, you can comment, but for any of those, you do have to have a YouTube account, which is free, but that might be another hurdle to have to jump. Go ahead, Megan.
I have a question on the YouTube. We had stopped utilizing our YouTube because I wasn't getting a lot of views from our members of our congregation. We're mostly getting them through Facebook, and then I link our Vimeo page to our weekly email so that people can see it that way. And I thought that there had been an issue with churches talking about offering, talking about giving or donations, and that YouTube was considering that making money off of the video. And so there was some copyright issues. And so that's why I stopped, because I wanted to be able to bring up giving online and all that. Has anybody run into issues with that? Like, because I'll start it back up on YouTube, but I didn't want to cause any hassle for me and like legal issues for the church. Even though we have the copyright thing, YouTube doesn't give me the option to put that information anywhere.
We post our CCLI license on the very front slide. So on like our title page, our title slide, we'll post the CCLI license prominently. But we haven't had any issues. I think it's monetization. I think with YouTube, the biggest thing is monetization in terms of like selling ads and things like that. I can't say for sure, but that's my understanding.
I jotted down your question, and I'm going to do a little bit of research in the Western Jurisdiction Worship Online group and see if anybody's found anything like that. And when I send the email after this meeting to everyone, it might be a little later in the day or maybe tomorrow morning, I'll include in there whatever feedback I got about that. Okay, next
Thank you. I appreciate
question.
that.
I'll wait for an email from Chris.
The next question is about automated call-in service to listen to worship recordings. First of all, does that question make sense to you guys? Is there an automated call-in service where people could call in whenever to listen to the worship service? That makes sense. Has anybody heard of anything like that?
So we talked about that at the beginning of the pandemic last year, trying to be able to connect with the people that don't have internet service. The feedback we got from a lot of people is that nobody wants to sit on the phone for an hour or more because our pastors have taken advantage of the videos, and sermons are working on like 30 minutes long. And so most of the feedback I got from the people who don't have any access to computers was, I don't want to sit on the phone for that long, even on like a speakerphone, which I totally understand. And so we kind of went, you know what, it's not worth getting into and finding the money for it. And so let's not worry about it. And at this point, I'm just like, maybe we won't have to worry about it anymore. Like, we'll be back in person. Fingers crossed.
Anyone else have something like that? No. Okay, well, I included your notes, Megan, and I'll still see if there's something I could find out there, and I'll link it in the response email. Okay, next item, clergy emails. So first, are there questions about the clergy emails? I want to make sure I address those first. All right, so here's the update then. We're so close to finalizing the complete list of the clergy email, or of all clergy, I guess. And, we were going to go with first initial, last name. And I knew that there was some member or clergy that had the same first name, same last name. So we had thought, oh, well, we'll just add their middle name. Then that'll fix it all. But then there were some other complications, because if we just do first initial, last name, there are other people that have the same first initial and same last name. It's like, and in some cases, they don't have a middle name. Like, so how do we differentiate? Well, maybe for those, we'll put the first name. And it just was starting to get more and more complicated. And then in a group discussion, Julie actually had the brilliant idea, why don't we just put the whole first name and whole last name? Like, no, but yeah. So that kind of solved it all. We're not going to use any special characters. So if your last name has a hyphen, or like Julie's has an apostrophe, if she was clergy, it would just be Julie O'Neill at dscumc.net, no apostrophe or spaces, obviously. So same thing. Some people's last name might have spaces in it, De La Torre. So there would be no spaces in there either. It's all just letters. And when clergy use their email for, let's say, annual conference registration or voting, they'll have to type it in all lowercase letters as well. I don't know for sure if the resources or the software that we're using this year is going to have an issue with some uppercase, some lowercase. If it's going to say, if my email address was listed with a capital C and a capital D, that's not recognized. I'm not sure. So that's why I'm going to put out in the instructions to make sure that everybody uses all lowercase letters. So that's the plan. And the list will be final in well, tomorrow morning. So tomorrow morning, I'll hand over the list to GCFA. They'll start doing all the cool stuff that they do to get these emails, email accounts started. And we're anticipating some issues. There might be, I don't know, some technical difficulty. Maybe we had some space in there, or who knows what might happen. So we're giving it about 2 days of working out the bugs time. I think that Friday we should have the accounts ready to go. I'm not 100% certain if we're going to send out an email. We probably will. We'll send out the email this weekend with instructions for, not this weekend, this week with instructions for clergy on how to access their new email account. I will recommend in those instructions to begin on Monday. That way they have the full GCFA staff available, hands-on, ready to offer IT support in case your pastor has questions about how do I access it on my phone? I just want to be able to see those emails here on my phone. I don't want to have to go on some website. Or maybe they already have Outlook and they have questions about how does that new Outlook account going to work with my current Outlook account? All of that stuff, GCFA can answer it and show them how to install the access on their laptop or on their phone, whatever, so that it makes sense for them. So it's not like a big, huge, confusing thing. Because I'm sure for some, Outlook is going to be brand new. And GCFA also will have a little walkthrough on here's how to do this stuff. My email to clergy will include a pre-recording of one of those little walkthroughs from GCFA, kind of an introduction to Microsoft Outlook and the other apps that they will have access to. I do have information available at dscumc.org/clergy-emails, or it might be email. And I'll add that recording on that page as well, including any instructions about how to access it. So if they lose the email from me, if they say they never got it, I don't know where it's at, you can find that at dscumc.org/clergy-emails. All right. Okay, so that was it, just that they're going to get information about the new email address this week, and they will have to use that new address for annual conference registration, and that's what we'll use to verify that they are officially okay to vote. Having that address does not give anybody voting credentials. There are some instances where your church may have a layperson assigned as your pastor. They will get that official email address. Oh, thank you, Julie. They'll get that official email address, but that doesn't grant them voting privileges. It's only if they already had voting privileges will they use that email address for voting. Same thing for clergy. Well, anyway, let's move on. So any questions about that? Okay. So for the YouTube live stream, the website address is dscumc.org/clergy-email. No S at the end. Okay, next item. So the other stuff is mostly about events that are coming up. There's a Christianity, Spirituality, and Culture webinar that's coming up on April 27th at 10 a.m. I'll send you guys the link to find out more, but it is accessible from our conference website. So I'll tell you just a little bit about it, or I'll read the description. It's the Four Corners Native American Ministry is hosting a webinar series. The first webinar in the series features a conversation with Robert Warrior. Robert Warrior is Hall Distinguished Professor of American Literature and Culture at the University of Kansas and a member of the Osage Nation. He is the co-author of Like a Hurricane, the Indian Movement from Alcatraz to Wounded Knee, and author or editor of 5 other books. He's the past president of the American Studies Association and was the founding president of the Native American and Indigenous Studies Association, Before moving to the University of Kansas, he taught at Stanford, the University of Oklahoma, and the University of Illinois. In 2018, he was elected to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. So everybody's welcome to attend. It's going to be a really important discussion. It kind of addresses the, I think you guys are all aware that Barna Studies says that there's a large, I don't remember the exact statistics, but it's growing and growing more than ever. People will say, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, or I'm not, they might even say that they're Christian, but I'm not a member of a church, but yes, I'm Christian. And so this discussion talks about that kind of, dives into, so is it better to be spiritual or is it better to be Christian? Or, are they the same thing? So it's going to be interesting. I highly recommend it. Check it out. I'll include the link to find out more about it in the email to you guys. And again, it's on April 27th at 10 a.m. And I'm also going to have a graphic that you guys can use, and it kind of breaks down a little bit more about the Christianity versus spirituality to pique people's interest, not so much about who's going to be talking, but the topic itself. The next one is economic inequality and criminal justice panel discussion. That's going to be on May 6th at 7 p.m. And I'll send you guys the link to that. This has been, I think this is the fourth or the third in the series. And, if you want to get links to the pre-recordings of the previous conversations from economic inequality, send me an email and I can send it to you guys. It is also accessible on the conference website, and I will include the link to that stuff as well in the email. All right, final item I have is the pre-conference briefing. So that's coming up. It's the briefing and practice. It's for all clergy and all lay members to annual conference. So there may be some of your church members that are interested and want to participate, but they can't exactly participate. They can watch it. So the only people that we're asking to register for this webinar is the people that would be attending annual conference. So your lay members annual conference and clergy. The pre-conference briefing is on May 21st at 6 p.m. I'll send you guys the direct link to the registration. Again, only lay members annual conference and clergy should register. Observers, or if your official people couldn't attend the pre-conference briefing and practice, they can watch it. So what you guys can share in your church newsletters is that anyone can come and observe, and they can find the information and the live stream about that at www.dseumc.org/AC. And FYI, in case you didn't know, your lay members annual conference and clergy should have received their first letter about annual conference. I think some of them went out on Friday and some went out yesterday. So they should have some information now from us, but this would be a great time to reach out to them to confirm that they did receive it, so that we know, or it gives you guys an opportunity and us an opportunity to correct in case there was a typo in the email when they entered the information, in their email address when they filled out their church conference forms or provided that information. It's always a possibility. So just check in, make sure that they received a letter from Jennifer Lambert, our annual conference secretary. Any questions? No? Okay. Then I don't really have a whole lot to say. I don't have anything to say actually about the two resources that I sent you guys about Earth Day graphics from Shutterstock. It's just something I got via email, and when I read through it, it looked like there was no requirement to be a paid member of Shutterstock to be able to use this stuff. So, yay, let's share it with everybody. What else? And then the Jason Moore webinar, I didn't attend the webinar, so I don't really know a whole lot about it. But if you're curious before you share it or dive deep into it, I know that it was presented by our new and Vital Faith team. And if you have questions about it, you can contact Dave McPherson. I'll include his contact information in the email after today's meeting. That's it. We got through it. Little longer than other times, but still under an hour. So thank you guys for joining us, getting together, sharing your insights. I so appreciate that. I will see you guys next week.